I was the first thing that boy saw when he came in the world. I was the first thing he saw every morning, the first thing he saw every day, and the last thing he saw every night. And all I could think about for 10 days, does my son know I didn't leave him like my father left me? Does my son know I can't be there because of these circumstances? What's my ex say when my little boy looks at her and says, "Where's Papa?" That's all I could think about for 10 days. It was making me crazy. I had to put it out of my mind. Thank God I had one more pressing issue. My last interview, my last opportunity to be in the business I wanted to be in, the last interview was set up the day before I'm to be released from prison. And something happened. Nothing will ever convince me it was anything other than the hand of God. Nothing will ever convince me of anything else. There was a prison guard and there was a telephone. And I said to that guard, I've been pursuing this dream to work at one of the finest firms on Wall Street. This is what I want to do with my life. It's the most important thing in the world to me. Will you please let me make this one phone call and reschedule this appointment? Not a second's hesitation. The guy dials the number and hands me the handset and the cord behind the bars. Now I had gotten my one constitutional call 10 days earlier. The conversation is brief and to the point. Mr. Costello, hey, it's Chris Gardner. Something has come up. Can I reschedule? Fine, done. Set it up day after tomorrow. Interest and penalties forgiven. And then I did something. I went to the place we used to call home, in Berkeley, California. Do you ever know something that nobody had to tell you? You just knew it in your gut? Yes. I went to the place we used to call home and I looked through the window and I knew they were gone. This chick took everything but the dust. Most importantly, she took my little boy. I still went on that job interview. Now, in the film, you saw Will Smith show up wearing blue jeans with paint all over him. I wasn't just wearing blue jeans, I was wearing bell-bottom blue jeans. Hey, it was the 80s, we all had them. I was wearing bell-bottom blue jeans and a members-only jacket. I was the last member, I had a red one. I show up at Mr. Costello's front door and he says exactly what I would have said to anybody who shows up at my front door at 6:30 in the morning, dressed like that. Delivery's in the rear. I would have said the same thing, but I come right back at it when I explain, Mr. Costello, I'm Chris Gardner. Today is the biggest day of my business career. I must admit I'm underdressed for the occasion. Yeah, you got that right. What happened? I could not think of a lie bizarre enough. I told the truth. It was the best thing I could have done. Turns out, it was the best thing in the world I could have done. And the reason is, turns out the man I'm talking to had been married and divorced 3 times. He started telling me stories about his ex-wives. And that second one, I don't know why he ever got married again. And out of nowhere he says, be here tomorrow morning, I'll personally walk you into the trading room. Beautiful, I'm getting my shot, I'm hired, my base salary, $1,000 a month gross. I'm moving to a boarding house, Oakland, California, all I can afford, 3 meals a day in a room. My days as a trainee were the same as they were for anyone who ever started on the bottom of Wall Street or in any sales organization. You do the one thing that nobody else wants to do and everybody thinks is beneath them, which is what? Cold call. Turn myself into a cold call machine 200 times a day with a rotary dial phone. I don't know if you guys in the back can see this, but in the front, see how this one finger is cockeyed? That's my calling finger, 200 times a day. And at night, the pain. When I see my son, how much longer is this going to go on? My ex and I were in that unfortunate space where sometimes the adults start acting like children, and one parent feels like if the only way I can hurt you is to hit you over the head with the baby, I'll do it. My ex also began a little campaign of what I can now call emotional terrorism. Call me on the phone, let me hear my son scream and cry, and hang up the phone. Now, this is before Star 69, caller ID, and all this stuff. Somebody in here might agree with me. There could be a room full of a dozen babies crying, and you know if that's your baby or not. Put it out of my mind. Study, study, study. Pass my exam. Highest score in the class. Big deal. My reward, I get to come back the next day and make 200 phone calls. The difference is now I'm a licensed broker. I'm working for myself. I'm building my own book of business. Goes on for months. Now one night, there's a knock at the door. 1 o'clock in the morning. And you know who that is. It's my ex. And the conversation is brief and to the point. I can't do this anymore. Here. And left my son with me. Just like that, that's how we became homeless. The boarding house did not allow children. That's what I meant when I said life happens. It could happen just like that. My son and I were instantly evicted. We joined a class of people invisible even among homeless people. It is estimated that 12% of all the homeless people in America have jobs and go to work every day. In some communities, that number is as high as 30%. Working families, homeless. I'm not talking about the guys outside with the cups. You didn't see us because we were at work. And by the way, those numbers I mentioned, 12 and 30, those were the numbers that were available to us from the government 2 years ago when we started writing the new book. We all know what's happened since then. Before we started filming Pursuit, it was very important to Will and I that he see, smell, and touch places my son and I had to live for a year as I pursued my dream of being financially independent and being in the business I wanted to be in. To his credit, the biggest movie star in the world cannot go any place without a 4-man security detail. He says, no, it's me and you. Let's go for a walk. 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning through the streets of San Francisco. The very first place I took him was down into the subway system. And he's such a bright guy. The first thing he says to me is, a lot of these people look like they dressed to go someplace. Yeah, well, a lot of them were dressed to get up and go to work in the morning. My son and I, again, instantly evicted, did the only thing that we could do. We moved into a series of hotels. $25 a day in a color TV. Do the math. You're making $1,000 a month gross. And that man wants his $25 a day cash every day, Saturday and Sunday. It won't work. We moved downstream. $10 a day on a black and white TV. Imagine who's living next door to you and your baby for $10 a day. It's a different world. It won't work. My son and I have begun to go to church every day. Black Memorial Church, Reverend Cecil Williams in San Francisco, California. We went to church every day, food for the soul. Food for the soul. And just as importantly, food. Because in the basement of that church is something called Moe's Kitchen, where they serve 1 million meals a year to people who are in need.